Right. Good afternoon, everyone. This is James Johnson with the Department of Local Government Finance. We would like to welcome you to today's webinar that will cover overview of the Indiana for Gateway Indiana Gateway for Government Units. Scott Maitland, who is our Chief of Staff and Information Systems Division Director, will be providing an overview of Gateway. Just a couple of quick items to note about today's webinar. The survey and the continuing education form for today's webinar are currently available on the department's webinar webpage. The link is provided in the Q&A section here. If you can see that on the webinar on your right-hand side of the screen. We will be posting the video and the PowerPoint presentation to the webinar page as well, but that won't be posted until the end of this week. But those items will be up on the webinar page by the end of this week. So with those housekeeping items aside, I will turn the webinar over to Scott Maitland, and he'll take the audience through a presentation of Gateway.
Thanks, James. I appreciate it. I'm going to add my own couple pieces of housekeeping here, and that is just to say that I appreciate everybody showing up today and participating in the webinar. For those of you who are not signed up for the notifications from the department, for the commissioner's email, those sorts of things, you can get signed up for those on our website, dlgf.in.gov. You can also send an email to Jenny Banks, our communications director, who can get you signed up for those. If you are signed up for those, you saw this past week in the commissioner's email that the department does have quite a few positions open. If you're looking for a great opportunity with a great employer here at the state, we highly recommend that you take a look at those. We've got quite a number of them. You can find them on links directly to them in the commissioner's email, or if you look on the state's website in the job posting searching for DLGF, you should be able to find them that way as well. Welcome any and everybody to apply for those. Today's presentation is sort of a follow-up from last year's presentation. If you have not seen that presentation from last year, it is available on our website in the presentations tab. What I want to do today is sort of a State of the Union type address on Gateway, what's happened over the past year, and where we're going moving forward. Before we get into that, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Scott Maitland. I am the Chief of Staff and Information Systems Division Director, background in computer science from IUPUI, and I have worked for the department as a programmer before, and I'm now back for more. I just celebrated my 3-year anniversary this time around with the department just a couple weeks ago. I'm very excited to be here. So if for any reason you ever need to reach out to me for any reason, really, my contact information is there on the screen. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to help you with any issues you might be having, whether that be with Gateway or any questions you have regarding the department as a whole. So with that said, a quick mention of the agenda here. As I suggested, we are going to talk about the past year in Gateway, what it is that the DLGF thinks that we've done well over the past year, comparing that to what our goals were, and then looking at areas where we think that we can improve and areas we're trying to focus moving forward. Then talking about some of the future developments for Gateway, what we're looking at on our roadmap here in the Information Systems Division Director, in the Information Systems Division. And then we've made some changes to our support team over the past year, and so I want to make sure I recognize and call out a few of our support best practices so that we can, that you all, when you're asking for our support, can help us help you, if you will. I want to go through that towards the end. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump right in. Over the past year, the department has received over 6,700 support tickets. We've gotten over 100 public records requests, and we've increased our gateway users over 12,000. We've hit that 12,500 mark with 1,400 new users in the past year, which is a lot. We're really proud of the numbers that we've got there, that we've been able to support that level of application, but obviously it comes with its challenges. We do have over 16 applications for our logged in users. Those are most often our public officials and our local government units. We did launch a new application this past year, the new sales disclosure application, hoping to make it easier for our local assessors to submit their sales files to the department so that that data can come in more frequently, more accurately, and easier on them in their offices. And then, as we mentioned in last year's presentation, continue to have hundreds of public reports available for local units, taxpayers, researchers, etc. So if we look at the things that the department thinks that we did well over the past year, we really tried to focus on stability this past year. For those of you who were around the year before, we did have an incident where we were knocked out for quite a bit of time, and it really brought our eyes to the need for some stability within the gateway application. Now, I guess I should have mentioned from the very beginning that when I talk about Gateway today, I'm referencing just the DLGF portion of Gateway. For those of you who might not know, DLGF is only one of about 6 agencies on Gateway. We do have the largest set of applications, I believe, but it is a shared sort of focused platform that we share with many other state agencies. And so I don't want to speak for them, but this is what we've been noticing. And so what we've tried to really do over the past year is to try and increase the stability of the platform on our part by slowing down our release schedule and making sure that we really have what we need in place before sending anything out, and then really focusing on the stability of the environment as a whole. We've put an emphasis on support and improving the experience of our users. That's really happened through a lot of things that are on the back end, using more third-party software to manage our support requests. Billy Ottensmeyer, who is a longtime department employee, decided to move on to the Department of Education. And so we have a new support employee, Kylie Bonds, who's been fantastic in helping us to sort of reinvent some of our support practices and help us get a lot better in a lot of different ways through our support apparatus. The performance of applications and uploads is something that we think that we've improved upon. We'll talk a little bit more about this moving forward, but I really do think that we've spent some significant time trying to improve the performance of our applications and our uploads so that when you are using them, they are performing at their highest level. And to that same point, consistency between our applications has been a big focus as well, so that you have an understanding of what is expected of you when you're on a particular page, that you know when you see something that whatever looks like this, oh, I've seen that in the budget application before, that must mean I need to do this here. Or, oh, this is very familiar to me because I did CNAV last year or last month, and that's a lot easier. That makes a lot of sense to me. Trying to make sure that our applications are consistent whenever possible has been something we've definitely tried to focus on over the past year. Now, we know we are not without faults, and so we do have some areas that we recognize that we need to continue to improve on. And as much as we've done for performance of our applications and uploads, we know we have just as much room to grow, if not more. And so we are trying to continue that effort and keep that moving in the right direction. But we know that that's an ongoing process. We also are going to continue to attempt to empower our users for what we call self-support. And that means improving our user guides, making sure our user guides are all the way up to date, improving our error handling within the application so that when you see an error, it makes sense to you, whether you are a programmer or not. And then trying to make our user interfaces just more intuitive, trying to make it more obvious how it is we want you to interact with the application so that you don't have to guess and you understand it just the first time you're seeing it. In addition to that, we know that you all have a lot of software available to you that holds a lot of the information that we're asking for. And so we're going to try to continue to connect to those existing data stores so that we can sort of cut out the process in the middle of you downloading some sort of export and sending it in for us to validate. We'd really love to get to a place where our applications could talk to your applications and we could just get the data when we need it and you might not need to be involved. That would be that particular step, that level of complexity is a little bit far off, but we still can do a better job of connecting directly with those data stores so that we can help cut down the amount of effort on both sides of the fence here. And then it's hard to believe, but Gateway is starting to, is close to being 10 years old at this point. And so we need to start looking at our aging applications and looking at those that we've wanted to update, but maybe just be a little too big or a little bit too long to update, and really put time and effort into looking at those so that we don't get to a point in the future where they're way too out of date and they're unusable. So we recognize that's a necessity as well. If we move on to talk about what's coming in the future, the DLGF Roadmap, this is not a comprehensive list, but it does represent a good portion of it. We're going to continue to work on stability increases through our internal process improvements. I've got the pre-budget survey overhaul there with a little asterisk behind it. And that asterisk is because that's already done. It did not get released prior to this year's pre-budget survey, but for those of you who know the pre-budget survey, expect a new one next year that will be easier to complete, have more data that gets rolled over when necessary, and be much more comprehensive and provide much more meaningful data to your field reps moving forward. Additionally, we've heard from multiple users about online or about LDAs and how cumbersome it is to fill those out and how long it can take to get them turned around. And so we're looking at a way to do LDAs online so that you can fill out the information, we can validate it programmatically, and then we can automatically assign permissions to the necessary individuals. That would allow us to provide that service 24/7, 365, and would not require a human to interact with them. It also could cut down on the errors of people filling those out because the computer will tell you the error right then and there before you even submit. We will continue to improve our performance throughout our applications, and we do plan to continue to add new uploads to Gateway, and I provide 3 examples there. Cumulative fund reestablishments, excess levy appeals, and TIF neutralizations. My preference has always been to get those out of email submissions where they can get lost and they can get forgotten, and put them on Gateway where we can automatically remind people and we can always have access to them, regardless of whether we're logged into our email or logged into our work computer or not. Another thing that has been asked for by a lot of individuals, and we haven't had the capacity to support it as of late, but we are committing to in the near future, is a testing environment. We know that a lot of you have been asking for that. It's not something that we've wanted to provide it, but didn't feel we had the staff necessary to provide it. However, with some staffing increases and some the ability to reprioritize some staff to work on those things, we do think we're going to be able to provide a testing environment moving forward. And then, as I mentioned, as we get closer to, oh, pardon me, I'm getting the afternoon yawns. As we get closer to Gateway being, that 10-year mark, some of our oldest applications, debt management and budget forms, are going to need to be rethought, more than just a fresh coat of paint, completely redone, so that they keep up with the times and that those applications are able to continue to serve and provide meaningful value to all involved. As I said, this is not a comprehensive list. It does represent a lot of what we are looking to over the next couple of years, I would imagine. And but there are a lot of other things, smaller things, some internal things, or things that are only necessary for a few public officials that didn't make it to this list. The natural question that I'm sure a lot of you are asking are, well, if I know of something that I want to have on this list, but it's not on there, how do I get something on your roadmap? And really, we sort of ask 4 questions before we put anything on the roadmap. The first is, does this save anyone time, and who does it save time for? Does it improve the accuracy of an existing data set, or is it a new requirement? And is it achievable for us to complete this? If it is some combination of the 4 of those, then we can put it on the roadmap. If it is 1 or 2, it starts to get a little challenging. But if it is definitely, if we can get 3 of the 4 of these, it's hard to get all 4 of them, but it is possible to get things onto the roadmap. And these are the questions I'm going to ask if you ask me to put something on our roadmap. In that vein, if you do have something that you think meets these criteria and should be put on our roadmap, let us know. This is the survey link for generic feedback to the department that we link a lot of places throughout our applications. And you're more than happy to put it there. You can reach out to me directly. I prefer, I think, if people reach out to me directly, because most often there are follow-up questions for people who are sending things onto the roadmap, and our surveys are intended to be potentially anonymous if necessary. So it's hard to ask follow-up questions if I don't have your contact information. Moving on, I do want to answer a question in the chat. If you have questions, feel free to put those in the chat. And I'll answer this one real quick, because before we move on, someone asked, is there a plan to update the CFA input screen on the annual financial report for schools? It is difficult to navigate. Unfortunately, I don't have a plan for that, because that's an SBOA application, not a DLGF application. I'm happy to pass that along to my counterparts at SBOA, but I definitely recommend that you do as well. That is an application that SBOA manages, and they control the updates for that. So I hope that answers your question. All right, we'll move on then. So I want to talk a little bit about some of the best practices for getting support from DLGF. We have changed some things in the last year or so. And one of the biggest changes is we've tried to put all of our support under one umbrella, and that includes trying to push everyone to send any support question they have to one email address, and that email address is support@dlgf.in.gov. There used to be, and really there still are, multiple email addresses that are available to you to send information to, like the Homestead mailbox or the SDF mailbox. Our preference is that you send anything and everything to support, and we will we'll sort it out on our side. Some other changes that have happened over the past year or so that are worth noting is that we've transitioned debt unlocks and budget form unlocks back to the field reps. It used to be that those came into the central office, but they were often just routed back to the field reps anyway, and so we've gone ahead, and the field reps are more than capable of doing that. If you have those, feel free to reach those, to direct those to your field rep, and they can help you with that. One of the common things that slows down getting a response from our support team, or maybe not getting a response, but getting a resolution from our support team, is when we receive an email that says, hey, I got an error on my CNAV, what do I do? And there's no screenshot, there's no further information. Maybe we don't even know what unit you're a part of. But anytime you get an error message of any kind, we really try to put those in red throughout the application. If you're seeing red text on your screen, please include a screenshot of that to our support team. It's just so helpful for them to be able to find exactly where you are, exactly what error you're receiving, and help you fulfill or to resolve that issue. In that same vein, if you can include the URL of the page that you are on, that is super helpful as well. It literally keeps us on the same page as you and helps us make sure that we're following along with whatever request it is that you're asking. More often than not, we're all speaking the same language that, I'm calling one page the same thing you're calling it, but every now and then we have different names for the same thing. And getting the URL just gives us the exact place that you're at so that it helps us provide the fastest level of support to you as possible. We also ask that you include your field rep on any support requests that you have. Field reps are really good at pushing for results and making sure things are getting done. So if it gets dropped on our side, your field rep more often than not will not forget about it and remind us and help us to finalize that support request. And so please include them as you go through any support requests as well. The last thing I want to mention about support is the fact that it does work on a first come, first served basis. That means that if you are waiting until the very deadline to start working on something and you encounter an error, it is very likely that we will not be able to respond to your request before that deadline has passed. Something to the effect of 65 to 75% of people submit their required paperwork to the department on the last 2 to 3 days. And you can imagine that that also increases support requests to the department. And we're just simply not able to handle that level of volume in that short of a time. So it continues to be vitally important that you submit, that you start working on things early so that we can help you as quickly as we can. With that said, we are at the question and answer stage of the presentation, and I see that we've got one from Warwick County Councilman, new to Gateway and like to learn how to use it. Are there any recorded webinars that would help me learn how to use it? There are. Continuing to read through the question. There are plenty of resources available that are helpful. What I would recommend you do is go out to the department's website and look at our previous presentations. There are some Gateway 101s, Budget 101s. There are a lot of user guides that are listed in Gateway themselves in the help pages. In fact, if I go on to my next screen here, using these two links here should help you as well find some information. And if there's anything specifically that you're looking for help on, it's also possible that we have done a webinar on a very specific topic. And if you send us a note or send your field rep a note, they might be able to direct you to a more specific version of a recorded webinar that could be helpful to you. I hope that answers your question. Any other questions? I know this is a shorter presentation than what Fred gives. He is trying to fit 75 minutes of content into a 60-minute slot. I'm trying to make sure we get all our questions answered, so a little bit shorter. I'll hang out here for a few minutes and we'll make sure we get any questions answered, but please don't hesitate to put those in the chat if you've got any questions. All righty. Well, it seems like we've run out of questions. If there's anything else that we can do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out. Appreciate you tuning in today for this update on Gateway, and look forward to talking to you all soon. So thank you all. Appreciate everything that you do.